Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. And the final 25 for 25 before we get to the top five. Hallowed ground. I can't believe we've made this entire journey. We're getting near the finish line. Andrew, Claudio, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, John. I can believe that we've made it through 20 episodes, or at least are about to make it through 20 episodes. But it's been a fun journey for sure. And I'm excited to talk about this, the person that just missed our top five for the group, even though he didn't miss the top five for me.
Shots fired early. I'm going to let that sit before I address it.
How's that a shot fired? It's a factual statement. We're talking about the first player we're going to talk about that is in a top five for anybody, and it was my number four on.
I actually did not even realize that nobody we've talked about so far made it to anybody's top five.
I don't think anybody.
Hold on.
We can put up the ranking if we want to.
Excuse me, sir. That's not true. Hi, David Lee.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Waving.
Someone else. My apologies, to David Lee, and thinking that,
and to the person that voted David Lee in their top five, because I know you would never disparage either that person or their voting inclination.
Never.
I know you
never. I'm happy to see you vote that way, John.
Thank you so much. If you're just joining us for the first time, maybe because you've been away or, I don't know, doing other things all summer, this is indeed our 25 for 25 series where we are counting down the top 25 Knicks of the last 25 seasons. And if you enjoy the show and if you have enjoyed the series, if you just want to help us out, do all the things that you could do to make that happen, like following us on social media at Knicks Film School, SKOOL. Subscribe, rate, review, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, those help us out. Of course, subscribe on YouTube and turn on those alerts, and then sign up for the Knicks Film School Patreon, where we've been doing a similar 25 for 25 series all summer, except for the NBA at large. And you're also going to be getting tons more bonus content from Benji, Gizde Zulo, and myself coming up very soon. Okay. I'm getting to it because I feel like there's going to be some conversations had on this show about one Karl-Anthony Towns. Let me dispense with the pleasantries first, as it were. Attended the University of Kentucky, where he, of course, played for Coach Cal. And he was drafted number 1 overall in 2015 by the Minnesota Timberwolves. Something I want to do at some point, maybe this is a next summer project for some channel. Rank all of the number 1 picks of like the last 30 years, 35 years, for as long as I can go back and remember, by hype. And the hype and like how much of a can't miss they were viewed as going into the draft. I bring that up because I think, let's just think about the last 30. Let's go post Shaq. Let's think about the last 35 years. And I'm not going to count like this last draft because we can count the last draft. So let's say if we start at like 95 or 96, I think Karl Towns would certainly be in the top half. Is that fair to say?
Top half for sure. I was wondering how aggressive you're going to be with the top. I think I know of 5. I think because I 3 names: LeBron James, Victor Wembanyama, and Zion is absolutely higher.
100%. Yeah.
Like Anthony Davis, I think is higher than him.
Yao Ming.
Yeah. Oh, geez. Yao Ming.
Forget about Yao Ming, but Yao Ming,
as far as hype is concerned,
as far as like this guy, if this guy is on your team, you are going to be competing for championships, plural, over the course of their career. There's probably an argument for Cat in the top 10 of that list. I don't know that I would make that argument because it's like it's not like there weren't any questions coming out of college, but it was like hands down foundational big man, no questions asked. Like, here we go.
Right. The conversation or the designation that you're talking about is like we knew he was the number one pick before the college basketball season started, and it was that much of a sure thing that this is going to be the Karl-Anthony Towns draft.
Hi,
Madison.
I think Jahlil Okafor would like a word.
No, this was the cat draft. Okafor was top 3, but Okafor didn't even like. I remember that was D'Angelo Russell. That was
KP, Emmanuel Mudiay.
Yeah.
Justice Winslow. But I don't know. It's probably, like I said, it's a conversation for another day. I do think it's an interesting conversation to have, though. He was traded to the Knicks. Are we coming up on the 1-year anniversary of this? We probably are, right? September. Yep. What was it? September
next week.
Next week.
Okay. Like 10 or so days from now. Yeah.
And he was traded for Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, and a protected first-round pick from Detroit. That I remember at the time, people, wasn't sure how good of an asset that was. Turned out to convey as a nice mid-round pick in this past draft, in which I'm going to get his first name wrong again, Mr. Berenger.
Berenger is French.
So the Joan would have been correct.
Joan Berenger.
Joan. So I would have screwed it up either way if I had. Okay, that's comforting to know.
All right. Hopefully he doesn't matter. So you getting his name wrong doesn't hurt you anyway.
Listen.
Although hopefully he does matter. So you learn his name, or this is just another person whose last name that you don't pronounce correctly.
Again, we're 6 minutes and 43 seconds into the episode, and that is two shots fired. He was named an Eastern Conference All-Star starter. One of 4 Knicks to start this century.
Name him, John.
Well, Jalen Brunson started with him.
Mm-hmm.
Melo had to start at least once.
Mm-hmm. Karl-Anthony, and there's one more.
Stoudemire, right?
Amari Stoudemire. Yeah. Very easy trivia question.
Pretty easy, yeah. He was selected All-NBA, 3rd team. The train was moving towards him getting a second team spot for most of the year, and then I think so it was pretty interesting at the end. I feel like the tide started to turn a little bit, because if you recall, especially when Brunson went out, there was like, Cat like 6th, 7th, 8th in MVP in the MVP race. So like, but whatever, made 3rd team, still really good. One of 6 Knicks to make All NBA this century. So the 3 guys I just mentioned.
We don't need to have you guess that. We will be talking about all 6 over the next 6 episodes between this and then the next 5.
Yeah, we will.
So, people will find out who the other 5 on this trivia question is throughout the rest of the countdown.
It's not exactly hard to.
Oh, I know that. I didn't want you to guess to guess them, because yes, it's the obvious answer.
Listen, it's the 3 guys we just mentioned: Julius Randle and Tyson Chandler. It's okay. So no. Not trying to hide anything.
I'm trying to keep as much suspense as possible for the list, in case people are wondering if the Daniil Gallinari episode is coming. Okay?
If there's someone
holding out hope for the Keith Van Horn or the Tim Hardaway Jr. or the Cam Reddish episode, folks, it's a meaningful number 5.
Who's the person that is most likely to have some Knick fan at home right now being like, wait a minute? Are you telling me that this person did not make the tie? Timmy? Timmy was here for 2 stints at least. That's something.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. I think Hardaway or Gallo are the only 2 that have a case for like 25 or 26.
If we're ranking how excited I was about a player when they came into the league, Gallinari as number 1, baby.
Yeah. Hype
train. Yeah. And then last but not least, he was 1st in rebounds per game this year. First in rebounds per game as a Knick this century, albeit only in 1 season. Finished, I think, 2nd in the NBA in rebounds per game this year, 2nd or 3rd he was up there with Sabonis. 3rd in points per game, again, over the last 25 seasons. And then 4th in 3-point percentage, 42% since the 2000-2001 season. Okay. And now
we got some trivia. So hold on.
Oh, there's more trivia. Okay. I love it.
Well, so first, let's start here. Can you name the other 3 that are ahead of him in 3-point percentage? I'll say this: the first one, I'm not gonna make you guess. The first one is a guy that's like 3 for 3. It's Eddie Curry at 1,000%. The other two are at 44.5% and 43.9%. And these are players that took a lot of threes and played more than like 50 games with the Knicks, maybe more than 40 games.
Novak
is number one at 44.5%.
Marcus Morris
is correct. Well done, John Macri.
Thank you, sir.
And the points per game one that Karl-Anthony Towns trails is just Carmelo Anthony and Jalen Brunson. Brunson at 26.4 and Carmelo Anthony at 24.7.
Yeah.
So
pretty impressive stats. I mean, without question, I mean, obviously Towns will well, I shouldn't say obviously, because who the hell knows in the NBA? It appears as if Karl-Anthony Towns will be playing a second season on the Knicks. But as of now, as far as one season Knicks, I mean, he stands head and shoulders above, anyone else you want to talk about from this season or at any point in time in Knicks history, which is why, transition to the voting totals, a lot of people held Karl-Anthony Towns in fairly high esteem, including GMAC, who I'm talking to right now, who had him 4th overall, as did Kev Words. You producers got to stick together. Although Mark, why are you hating on Karl-Anthony Towns? Have him 10th?
Mm-hmm.
Disgraceful, 10th. How could anyone have Karl-Anthony Towns so low? And then let's see what else we got. Sean with a W has him 5. Got another 5, a couple of 6s, and then DJ Zulo, man, again, hatred. Why DJ Zulo have Karl-Anthony Towns 12th? It's inconceivable that someone could have Karl-Anthony Towns so low on their top 25 next to the last 25 seasons ranking. And now we could go on to have the conversation, right?
Let's get to it. Someone who ranked RJ Barrett ahead of Karl-Anthony Towns.
13th.
That's right. You have Cat ranked 13th on this list. And I've been waiting 20 episodes to ask you why you ranked Karl. I'm not saying that the 4 that I have him ranked is aggressive. I do understand that. I just got to the end of this list and was like, in trying to order out the top 6 or 7. In his one season with the Knicks, he made All NBA, was an All-Star starter, has like career highs across the board, has all these different highs for a single season that we just went over, and the team went to the conference finals and was 2 wins away from the NBA finals. Like, as successful a first season that anybody could have. So I decided that mattered a lot, and that weighed heavily on me going with 4th. I could see him being 6th or 7th even. 13th is where I have to ask you what happened, John. What happened?
So I will preface this by saying, or not even saying, by referring to something, a concept, a belief, if you will, that I have had and I have echoed on this show, on other programs, on when we've had all NBA conversations for Patreon over the years. This is not new. Anybody who's been listening to me for a long time, or for any period of time really, knows that this is legit. I value service time.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're putting in the work over years, even if the sum total of that work may be questionable. Hello, RJ Barrett, 1 spot ahead of Karl-Anthony Towns for me. I think there's value in that. I think there is value in coming to work every day for a franchise that has had many people come to work every day, day after day, that we wished very much would stop coming to work. Like it's just the way it is especially over this time period, and if you do it for like several seasons, I think there is real value in that. And the fact that Karl-Anthony Towns, we are judging him on one season, just one, mattered to me. So already he was going to have an uphill climb. As for why I have him lower than anybody else, and other than DJ Zulo, lower than anybody else by a few spots, I'm just going to get right to it, Andrew.
Let's get to it.
Are we sure if the Knicks had an opportunity to do the trade over that brought Karl-Anthony Towns to this team from Minnesota, that they wouldn't take that opportunity. If today they could bring back Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, forget the pick. The pick is interest. Let Minnesota keep the pick. You're bringing back Joan, Hoan, Beringer, whatever you want to say his name. Stays in Minnesota. Julius and Dante back. Karl-Anthony Towns, send him back to Minnesota. Are we sure the Knicks wouldn't do that? And before you answer, I want to remind you of all of the reporting that took place around the time of the trade and in the aftermath of the trade that made it very clear. A big reason why the Knicks at least started to go down this road, this thought process of, hey, if we could get this guy, even if it costs us Dante, it might be something we have to look into. A big part of that was that they needed a center. They knew Mitchell Robinson at the time, even though they were not willing to reveal this information publicly. They knew Mitchell Robinson was going to be out for most of the year. They knew the only way for them to get a decent center would be to trade Julius and get someone back that was going to be getting, 45 cents on the dollar for Julius Randle, who's an all-star / all-NBA caliber player. And so they looked at that and they said, all right, well, go big or go home. Karl-Anthony Towns can play the 5 for us. Eventually, Mitch will come back. We'll kick the can down the road as far as Towns going to be our 5 long-term, our 4 long-term, whatever. Now, Mitchell Robinson is here. He just had the best postseason of his career. He looked awesome. He seems healthy. And oh, by the way, on the mid-level exception, less than the mid-level exception, slightly less because it took a little discount, Guerschon Yabusele is here. A guy who is a defensively challenged big man who is lights out from 3 and specifically on above the break threes, can put the ball on the floor if you give him a hard closeout. And is he probably be better off at the 4? Yeah. But if you want to stick him at the 5 for stretches of games and really open up your offense, you can absolutely do that. What doesn't Guerschon Yabusele do? Maybe that Karl-Anthony Towns, in theory, could do? Be unguardable on the post. And guess what, Andrew Claudio?
What?
I just watched an entire postseason in which Karl-Anthony Towns, who supposedly can be unguardable in the post whenever he wants to, most skilled big man, the whole thing, not dip into that at all. So
at all aggressive. At all.
Okay.
Aggressive. There were several stretches that you forgot.
There were
guys' defense that
there were
Karl-Anthony Towns was unguardable.
There were a few stretches.
Yes.
By and large.
Their first win of the conference finals, he has a 20-point fourth quarter where he was unguardable.
Yes.
It's also just like not his game, like him being unguardable in the post. He also has a drive game that you give him at the top of the key and there's no stopping him downhill when you have like him as a charging bull. That's what I remember from that fourth quarter against the Pacers.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
The charging bull from the top of the key.
Mm-hmm.
You know what charging bulls? It's absolutely a correct description.
Yeah.
You know what charging bulls don't do?
What?
They don't stop. And when Karl-Anthony Towns puts the ball on the floor from the top of the key, you better hope that ball goes in the basket because it's not getting past and he ain't getting up in time to make it back on defense. And there's a possibility it's a turnover, although he actually cut his turnovers down, or he limited the turnovers to an acceptable degree. It was more just like the constantly falling on the floor and like, again, not getting back on defense. There is a roadmap, and there has been a roadmap for the last 10 years for Karl-Anthony Towns to be one of the 5 to 10 most consistently devastating offensive forces in basketball. And I think 5 to 10 is actually probably putting it. I don't even need to do the 5 to 10. I think you can really just do the top 5, given the shooting percentages, given how adept he looks on the block again at times. And again, we just watched the whole postseason in which I don't know about you. I think because clearly I'm in the minority, but I just kept wanting more. I kept wanting more, not only because I knew he was capable of delivering more, because as you said, as you corrected me rightly, we saw it sometimes. We saw it. Mm-hmm. But because when you are so consistently and so maddeningly giving it back on the other end to the point that there was not one other player, man, Deuce a couple of times in the first round, but I don't think there was another player during this postseason who I was ever like, shit, man, we got to get this guy off the floor. And there were multiple stretches where we watched Karl-Anthony Towns on this team, and we were like, man, we got to get him off the floor. He's killing us. Were there stretches in those same games where Towns dominated? Yeah, there were. And that's the thing about Karl-Anthony Towns. It's the opposite poles. You're going to get the absolute best and you're going to get the absolute worst. And as I sit here preparing for a season in which the Knicks have their best shot to win a title in at least 30 years, I am frankly concerned about whether those wild fluctuations will go away to the degree that I feel they need to for this team to scale the mountaintop. That's a very long-winded way of explaining why I have Karl-Anthony Towns at 13th.
So I don't not share your same concerns, the high-end ceiling concerns about the Knicks ceiling and whether they can scale the mountaintop because of what Karl-Anthony Towns can be at defense sometimes. I will go back and note something that you like to do with cleaning the glass and his on-off. Guy had the highest on-off for the Knicks over the 82-game sample. And yes, in the playoffs, his detrimental defense was about league average, 114.3 points per possession, and was still the Knicks' highest on-off individual at plus 7.6 for the playoffs. So for somebody that he's killing them on the other end, the combined of his on-off minutes for on-off possessions for the playoffs, he still was their most impactful player. They were still the most net positive when he was on the floor throughout the playoffs.
Go a step further. Defensively, both, and I looked these stats up yesterday, both in the regular season and more so in the playoffs. If you're looking for the defensive culprit for the Knicks, the stats say it's not Karl-Anthony Towns. It's the guy that's coming up much higher on this list.
And this is also where the numbers need some context. And it's where Cat had the benefit of playing that second unit all the time, where he could boost his on-off for the majority of the season because he got to play a second unit where it had the optimal spacing that you need to use if you want to use
against
Cat the very best. That's what exactly the second quarter where he would come in and Josh Hart maybe sits for a couple minutes, although maybe he plays and they're fine. And Cat would get to play with the ability to have the offense run through him. The example I'll always go to for like, oh, this is the blueprint was the one game Josh Hart missed before Christmas. He had a family thing come up, and so he didn't play against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Great Tom Thibodeau. He started Precious Achiuwa, and it looked awful because they put Rudy Gobert on Precious, and then he just didn't guard Precious because for some reason Precious was spacing for the majority of that first quarter, and Cat had 3 turnovers. Then to start the second quarter, Naz Reid picks up his third foul, and they go to Rudy Gobert at the 5, and then like 4 spacers, and it put Cat against Rudy Gobert. And the 3-time defensive player of the year could not guard him. And the Knicks built a 20-point lead very quickly en route to Cat having a 40-20 night. This also just goes to list mechanics, John, and concerns about whether he can be a defensive liability in the playoffs doesn't matter because in his one season with the Knicks, the guy made All-NBA, was an all-star starter, and made the conference finals. I'm not saying that that's worthy of being top 5, although I am because I made him top 5.
Well,
but just as far as accomplishments are concerned, did RJ Barrett accomplish more than Karl-Anthony Towns? Did J.R. Smith accomplish more than Karl-Anthony Towns? I'll go a step further. Did Kristaps Porzingis accomplish more than Karl-Anthony Towns?
No.
Then what are we doing here? Honestly, then what are we doing here?
What we're doing here is having an honest conversation about what Karl-Anthony Towns' impact is. the Knicks traded for a player who is, again, I'll say it, unguardable when he wants to be. You cannot stop him. And because the NBA regular season is very long, and because teams don't always have a chance to game plan appropriately enough, and even if they did, it wouldn't matter because Karl-Anthony Towns gets on these stretches. You referenced the stretch against the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, I'm thinking of games against the Bulls alone, you know? I mean, when Carl, again, the Bull comparison, when he saw Redman, he was getting after it. I was in the building for one of those games. And in the second half, what Karl-Anthony Towns was doing on offense against the Chicago team in Madison Square Garden was unlike anything that I think I had probably seen a Knick do in person in my lifetime. We're talking about over 30 years worth of watching games. This has nothing to do with the ceiling. This has nothing to do with the incredible performances. And maybe I should have had my ranking do a little bit more to do with those performances and that ceiling. The Knicks brought Karl-Anthony Towns here to turn them, because I don't think there's any arguing what I'm about to say, because if they thought that they were a championship contender before the trade, they would not have made the trade.
Right, so they did. And the answer to your question, by the way, is yes, they would still make the same trade.
I think they would too.
Yeah, Mitchell Robinson being healthy for now is not a reason to not trade for an All-NBA center/power forward.
I think they would too. I don't know that I would, but put that aside for a second. They brought him here to make them a championship contender, or to have the ability to win a title, whether it was last year, this year, next year, at some point in time when he is here in a Knick uniform. And if I have to be honest with myself and say that I'm not sure that the trade that brought him here gets them closer than they otherwise would have been, that has to carry immense weight. For me, it has to carry immense weight to the point that Karl-Anthony Towns makes $57 million. Now, that money should not impact our ranking. It
really shouldn't. No,
it shouldn't. However, because of the amount of money he makes and because of who he is, there is no universe where Tom Thibodeau was ever going to do this, or Mike Brown will ever do this, where you're going to see him on the sidelines whispering to an assistant coach, can't play cat, a la can't play canner. That's never going to happen. Karl-Anthony Towns is going to play 30 plus minutes any game he's healthy for from now until the day that he's no longer on the Knicks. So for me to have to sit here and wonder if the fact that you have to play this guy a certain amount of minutes in playoff games is going to make the Knicks less likely to win a championship, how do I reconcile that with putting him in my top 10? Every other player that I ranked ahead of him, when they played, at the moment they played, I could look. There were times where I'm like, man, this guy might not be helping us. RJ Barrett, for one. God knows how many times I said, RJ, got to get him off the floor. But we also saw him in the playoffs. You loved your RJ playoff point. Be like, man,
that's a good point. Yeah.
This guy's pulling it together at just the right time. We need him on the floor, you know? And I can't, again, I remember doing my rankings for the Boston series after the series was over. And I wrote, I'm not trying to say Cat had a bad series per se, but when I was doing my rankings, he was at best, for me, the fifth best Knick in that series. And there were other times, and there are a lot of times against Indiana, where I thought he was the main culprit on both ends of the floor. While at the same time, and I've said this many times, his game one performance against the Pacers, it should have gone down as one of the great Knick performances in the history of the franchise. Should have gone down that way. And so you have to take the good with the bad. And by me putting him 13th, is that belittling or minimizing the good too much? Probably it is.
Probably, yes.
But that just goes to show how much the other side of it sticks in my craw to a degree that I don't know, man. I'm having trouble reconciling with. That's it.
Again, it's very clear, has been very clear since the playoffs that the weeks and months of should they consider Kevin Durant, were very clear how you feel about
weeks. Like 2 weeks.
When was Fanatics Fest? So it was like a month after the playoffs. Yeah, because that's when we knew he got traded. And that's when the dream died for you, that they might trade or dabble in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. It's very clear how you feel about Karl-Anthony Towns and how your hesitations and your concerns, which I'm not even minimizing the concerns. I have similar concerns about them getting into a playoff series with an elite pick and roll combo and the team's just attacking like, okay, we're going to attack Brunson this possession, attack Cat this possession. What if I told you, John, that Karl-Anthony Towns averaged, let's say he shot 50% from the field, 41.5% from three, had a 57.5 effective field goal percentage, had 22 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, even 3 assists a game. What if I told you that's what he did this season?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Those are great numbers. Those are his stats from his final season in Minnesota, in which at the time they made the trade, you were gushing. You were, oh my gosh, we got this guy that every number that I look at, it's an elite offensive player. Why don't Wolves fans love him? And all of those numbers why do I remember the Dane Moore podcast where it was like, what am I missing? And he's pointed to, there are just some very frustrating moments. All of those numbers I just mentioned, he had higher numbers in his first season with the Knicks
because he was better,
and they went to the conference finals. It
was arguably the best offensive season of his career, and there are no shortage of incredible playoff moments to associate it. The fourth quarter, game 1 against Detroit on defense. Defense. The shots in game, what was it, game 3 or game 4? Game 4.
You want to talk about dominating on the block, the Carmelo Anthony fadeaway that.
Well, it was 3 shots. It was that. It was the deep 3, and it was the other 3 that everybody forgets about it because it's like the third most impressive of those. But like, they needed all 3 to win the game. He had some moments against Boston, and then again the game 1 against Indiana, and then the game 3 fourth quarter performance against the Pacers, which again is going to get lost to time. But my lord, I mean, well, I was about to say, could you imagine what would have happened if they lost that game? The coach probably would have gotten fired.
Yes. It would have happened anyway. I hate to do this to you.
That's fine. Do it.
It has to be asked. Does the fact that...
No. I know. Ask it.
Does the fact that maybe because of his performance during the playoffs, even though I think there is some deployment to how you use Cat, will also determine how effective he is, especially if you have a 10-year sample of how best to use him. Does the fact that Tibbs got fired as a result of, if you consider them underachieving, like Cat not being good enough to help them get to the finals because of what he is on the defensive end, does the fact that Tibbs got fired have anything to do with why you put him at 13th?
Absolutely not. One, I believe, based on just what we know about the franchise and based on, I think, what both of us have heard, Tibbs absolutely endorsed the move. Like, 100% endorsed the move. Wanted Karl-Anthony Towns. And Tibbs has always been about stars. And he
wanted Donovan Mitchell. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and what do coaches always think? Even coaches who may have failed with the same player previously, I can figure it out. I will get it right. I will figure out a way to make this work. So that's number 1. And number 2, the more important thing, and then we got to move on to the categories because we've been going on for a while here, is
this is a worthy conversation. You have Karl-Anthony Towns ranked 13th.
It's that defensive performance, and it was like a handful of plays, but it was at the end of game 1 against Detroit. Yeah, like it's a campaign game, but like they don't win that game without Karl-Anthony Towns making stand after stand after stand on defense. That was the best he was defensively all playoffs long. And it's not, I really don't think it was close.
Mm-hmm.
He has that in him. He had, as you referenced, he had stretches where he did get down and dirty into the muck, whether it was against Jason Tatum or Tobias Harris or whoever the poor Pacers were trying to put on him in game one. He had stretches where he was doing the work, the hard work. That's not pretty.
Mm-hmm.
It's not flashy, but you're going to have to deal with me now. We saw those stretches. To whom much is given, much is expected. So Karl-Anthony Towns is 13th for me, not because of what he can't do, but because of what we know he can do, and he doesn't do enough. And until I'm proven otherwise, will continue to question whether or not it is about something in him that is either incapable or unwilling to bring out those parts of him more consistently. I don't need it every minute of every game, but I need it more. And I guess when thinking he's getting traded to New York, hometown team, the whole thing, bright lights, maybe a deeper playoff run than he's ever been, maybe that'll like inspire him to really dig deep and be the best version of himself more consistently. And the fact that we didn't see that, you're goddamn right I'm holding that against him.
Johnny had the highest impact on the team. Like we did see that.
I made the conference finals. I know what the numbers are.
All the numbers back up that he had a really great first season and the team had a really great season. I think what you're talking about is a difference between a guy making third team All NBA and making first team All NBA. That's the margin that we're talking about. If he's a guy that also has that defensively, then we're talking about one of the most unstoppable players on both sides of the floor. He doesn't have that second part, and it doesn't hurt the team that much when he's used correctly. You want him in the paint and the down and dirty and backing people down. When he's the most lethal 3-point shooter from 7 feet, from 7 feet tall that they have. I want him taking 7, 6 threes.
Okay, it's fine.
The three is more than 2.
Stop. You don't think that I want Karl-Anthony Towns taking 10 threes a game?
You just gushed about the
Andrew
muck and the down and dirty, and I wish we had Kurt Thomas. Like John.
He is as unwilling to do that as he is to get down on the block. If you're giving me answer choice B, Karl Towns takes 10 threes a game in the playoffs. Where the hell do I sign up for that? Fine, give me that. He doesn't want to do that either. He wants to operate how he wants to. He wants to operate how he wants to operate because he envisions himself as Kevin Durant. That's how he's always envisioned himself, as a guy who could put the ball on the floor, and I am 7 feet in name only. I could do all the things that all of those other guys do. And I'm sorry, Kat, that's not the most effective deployment of your skill set. And because of that, that's, again, why I'm holding this against him.
Deployment of his skill set?
Yeah, because, yes, he can put the ball on the floor at 7 feet. It's an amazing, incredible thing to watch. It's not as effective, not nearly as effective as him either bombing away 8, 9, 10 times from deep or putting some little guy in the freaking basket who can't handle him otherwise.
I think he did both of these things adequately and enough last season to have a highly decorated and impactful season. They made the freaking conference finals, John.
He had a wonderful season. The Knicks had a wonderful season. If you're going to give me a guy that has the inconsistency of a Karl-Anthony Towns on defense, I need, at the very least, complete and total consistency on the offensive end, and that's what we don't get. The fact is, he's not an unstoppable offensive player for as much as he can be, for as much as he has the skills to be. He's not. And there are too many stretches where you don't feel him on that end. And if I'm getting the inconsistency on defense with that, and I'm paying $57 million a year, it's an issue for me.
And those inconsistent stretches were so detrimental that it held the team back from what?
Andrew,
not getting to the conference finals.
We should be talking about the 2020. We should be talking about the 2025 NBA champion.
Yes, and if the coach had decided that a starting five, that I know you're going to do the John Macri giggle and laugh. Oh, this is all Tim's fault. How dare somebody blame him? How about we see the 5-out lineup that you go get Karl-Anthony Towns for a little more often than 87 possessions during the season? How about you pivot from a starting five that's been mid earlier than Game 3 when you're down 0-2 in a series?
It's fair.
It's not Karl-Anthony's fault that his biggest weakness for the first 9 years of his career still exists. All those frustrations, I still feel it too. I still feel all of those. It's my biggest worry for this upcoming playoffs is that they're going to run into, the example I keep going to is Trae Young and the Hawks. They're going to run into an unstoppable pick and roll combo if Porzingis is healthy and not dealing with whatever he had during the playoffs this past season, and the Knicks can't guard it. Okay. And it's partially a Karl-Anthony Towns issue. My biggest contention about your aggressive frustration with Karl-Anthony Towns is listeners, you think John Macri is talking this much about Cat? Go listen to what he said about RJ Barrett, and he has RJ ranked higher. You have Kurt Thomas in 2025 ranked higher than Karl-Anthony Towns. You know where the Knicks are going if Karl-Anthony Towns is Kurt Thomas this season?
I think last season they would have beat the Pacers.
No, I don't think they get to the second round, John. They lose. They don't have that unstoppable force that helped them win in the Pistons series.
Look,
this belief in the muck and the Kurt Thomas way of counting by twos is nonsense. I'm sorry. It just is, John. And I again, share all of your frustrations about Cat. There's no way he's lower than 7 on this list. And you know what? Ahead of so many guys that shouldn't be.
We're going to revisit this.
Mm-hmm.
After another
All-NBA season, after another All-Star
All-NBA, we're going to revisit this to see, hey, Mike Brown, new coach, brought in for offensive creativity. They brought all these different people in, collaborate, the whole thing, get the most out of this offense. This offense, considering the talent, this starting offense was doo-doo for the end of the regular season and for the playoffs. Yeah. That's why they lost. The philosophy of the team was always outscore everybody, defend well enough. They did not score everybody.
Probably should have put their best offensive unit out there.
Exactly. So let's see this season if we get more 5-out or whatever Mike Brown has up his sleeve. Let's see if that is the difference. And the just good enough defense, which, by the way, the defense was just good enough, I think, in the playoffs to make it at least to the finals, and then we would have seen from there. Okay. Quick break to tell you about America's first ever USDA organic THC gummy. You know the words. Shout out to Cornbread. Yes, Cornbread, the source of your healthy, happy hour. It's a natural and healthier way to experience a carefree moment. Cornbread's THC gummies offer a balanced sense of happiness and relaxation. Well, how do they achieve that balance? My favorite thing about Cornbread is it's just the right amount for me as someone who is not a regular user of these sorts of products, but still wants to get that relaxation without feeling anxious or paranoid like some other cannabis edibles, which is why Cornbread's 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio is perfect for me. They have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy, which is just the right dose, and it gives me everything I need without any of the stuff that I don't want. If you are looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give Cornbread Hemp a try. They have created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that is 100% legal. As a special offer to Knicks Film School listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use promo code KFS at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/KFS and use code KFS for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. I have to get out of here soon, so we have to do the categories.
Let's do it.
This was fun. Lasting memory or best memory, lasting image as a Knick.
So John doesn't have one. I'm going with the Pistons game 4, where he has that 8-point stretch. The 3 after Brunson draws the double team. The Carmelo Anthony fadeaway, which was just sweet and beautiful. And then the 3-pointer with the shot clock winding down from very deep. And then he told everybody to fuck off in Detroit, which we all echo said sentiments.
You stole my answer. It would have been the 3, the no, yes 3 against Detroit. So in lieu of that, I will give Cat some flowers, because notice one thing that I did not question at any point in time during my little diatribe was his toughness. And that dude is tough. And again, I mentioned I was in the building for one of the Bulls game at MSG last year where Josh Hart fouled Kobe White's hair and they ended up losing. There was a moment at the end of that game where Karl-Anthony Towns could not move. Like, it literally looked like he couldn't support himself because he had fallen and injured one of his legs, both of his legs, I forget. And he would not come out of the game. And they needed him in the game because offensively, he was the only thing they had going for them at the moment. And he stayed in and he toughed it out. And there were countless times over last season where he did similar things. Now, have there been accusations that he maybe his mannerisms or reactions during injuries are meant to milk it a little bit, and he knows
the oh my god, the oh my god yell compilation is very funny. I would just say. Him yelling oh my god when he thinks he should be fouled, is very funny. But
it doesn't change the fact that he is a tough player, and he does have, I do think, a certain grit to him. And to just close the loop, because I know what people are going to be thinking. How do I reconcile that with what I said before, where he is not doing maybe the dirty work that I think he needs to do sometimes on offense? I don't necessarily think that's I'm not willing to do the tough thing. I think he wants to. He has an image in his mind of what his offensive game should be. And I think that image is his guiding light. And that is never going to be live on the block. And to your point, it shouldn't be consistently on the block.
Yeah. He averaged 24-13 last year, not living on the block,
but
counting by 3.
But again, we're talking about nuance here, because when you're talking about trying to be the second best player on a team that wins a title, guess what? You're talking about nuance, just like with Russell Westbrook. It always came down to those like 2, 3, 4 shots a game where it's like, what are you doing, man? We're talking about 2, 3, 4 more times a game. That's it. Where he might back someone down and at least be a threat to do something down there. That's it. Okay. Move on. Biggest regret, something you wish would have gone differently or better, even if out of their control. I'm going to steal your answer now. I wish Tibbs would have gone more 5 out.
Okay. And I'll steal your answer. I wish he was more consistent on defense.
I mean, and if my mother had wheels, she'd be a wagon.
And if Tibbs believed in offensive philosophies, the Knicks would probably be champions today.
What would Tibbs be if he had wheels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably still unemployed.
Did my joke on Twitter that he should go coach the team that Cam Reddish signed for, did that get any likes? What role would Karl-Anthony Towns have on the current team? Well, listen,
he's on the current. It is a question how Mike Brown uses him. It's honestly my biggest question.
We had this conversation for the Mitch pod. Is Karl-Anthony Towns going to be your starting 5 or your starting 4? And probably more importantly, when Karl-Anthony Towns closes games this year, will he be closing games at the 4 or at the 5? Let me give you this. Assume the Knicks make it to at least the conference finals. Over under 1.5 games that Karl-Anthony Towns closes the game on the bench. And I'm not talking about like there's a possession in the last 8 seconds that he'll be on the bench for. Like, I'm talking about like last few minutes, like Karl-Anthony Towns on the bench. Over under 5. Under. Okay.
I do think there'll be a bunch of games that Mitch closes with Cat, and they'll twin tower it, Maybe
that's the better question.
They'll take advantage of their advantage that the Knicks have just flatly shown they can have over the Cavs, and going with Mitch in a Cavs series. And now you have another big man that will average 16 rebounds a game. If you want, that could be like a heavy Josh Hart with those 2 series, because you're dominating the boards. And maybe like it's a Josh over Mikal series, I gotta be honest, this is a conversation to another thing you just alluded to about, well, Brunson was technically much more detrimental on defense last year.
He was.
It's a series that if they're picking on Brunson for parts of the series, then you go away from Jalen Brunson for stretches. Not that I don't love Jalen Brunson and want his clutch shot making ability. I do think there will be games where it's like, oh, yeah. Garland and Mitchell are taking turns picking on our 6'1" point guard. Let's dominate the boards instead.
There's no universe where I ever want the Knicks to close a close playoff game without Jalen Brunson on the floor.
Closing is a different conversation. There's no game he doesn't. But as far as playing less minutes,
not to go back to something I said at the top of the pod, but if you magically inserted Dante DiVincenzo onto this team,
mm-hmm.
and you have the option to close. Let's say the Knicks have a 2-point lead and there's 4 minutes left to go in a game. And you have the option to close with Brunson, DiVincenzo, McCall, OG, and Mitch, or Brunson, Cat, and then 3 of those 4 guys.
The whole
I think it's a more interesting conversation.
If I have Dante shooting and Mitch is healthy, that's fair. They don't have, I guess you could argue it's Deuce, but he's not Dante shooting, but he is a better defender. In the current iteration of the team, I want Karl-Anthony Towns on the floor in important moments because I've seen him hit important shots. There may be defensive possessions, which we saw brilliantly from Tibbs last year. You take Brunson and Cat out the game for said defensive possessions.
Andrew, if this stance that I've been workshopping this summer and that I've pretty firmly planted the flag down in this episode,
firmly indeed.
If I really do decide, you know what, this test drove pretty well, I'm going to go ahead and buy this car and I ride it around all season and they win a championship, we're going to have to ask Yash where he got that crow, and we're going to have to buy the company that makes the crows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just going to...
While you were on your last diatribe before you stopped, I was already on Amazon looking for bulk crows to see
crows.
So how I could send them all to your new house. You're just going to have a shelf in your new studio.
That's
the
backdrop.
This is when I said Cat couldn't play defense and it'll hurt him. This is when I said he needs to go play in the post in 2025 instead of being the most lethal shooter from being a big man. You know,
I look forward to that day.
Which is why what I look forward to is his lasting legacy with Knicks fans, which I do wonder how many Knicks fans agree with you on this and are like, I'm already done with Karl-Anthony Towns. I happen to look at the highs that exist when Karl-Anthony Towns is on your roster. And I had doubts going into last season, the same doubts that you seem to have now. And he more than exceeded those doubts. And it's partially because of what the numbers tell me. It's partially from what he accomplished his first season individually. It's part of what the team accomplished with him on the floor and what I think he's going to do this season. So the lasting legacy is still being built with Knicks fans. And I think it's going to end up being pretty high by the time, I think it'll be unanimous. He's in the top 4 at the end of this year.
Right now, Karl-Anthony Towns is very much in the Julius Melo zone in terms of opinions on him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't, again, you tell me if this is a controversial statement. If Karl-Anthony Towns is not universally in the top 4 for 26, I think the Knicks almost certainly underachieved this year.
Yeah. I agree. And it's a question I asked Mensa, who will be joining us now on the Knicks Film School podcast.
As my mic unplugged yet again, so sign us out. Stick around for Andrew's conversation with Mensa. Andrew, thanks so much for humoring me on this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, I'll see you later. But again, stick around for Andrew and Mensa.
Joining me now here on the Knicks Film School podcast as we continue talking about Karl-Anthony Towns, number 6 on the list of the top 25 greatest Knicks, best Knicks, favorite Knicks of the past 25 seasons. In fact, let's find out why he put Karl-Anthony Towns where he did on his list. More like Mensa Smith. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, but not as great as Karl-Anthony Towns is at basketball.
Absolutely. I had him very high on my list. That's for sure. And I needed someone that's the advocate to come on here and sing the praises of Karl-Anthony Towns, because the person that everybody just heard me talk to about Cat had him ranked 13th, Mensa. So I needed you to come here, and you only had him ranked 8th, but still at least respected him enough to have him in your top 10. I, of course, had him ranked at 4th. Shout out to everybody else except it's literally just Macri who has him ranked 13th and DJ Zula who has him ranked 12th. I'm just going to give you the floor here. How do you feel about Karl-Anthony Towns? Why did you rank him as high as you did in our list off of just one season in a Knicks uniform?
Honestly, I thought you were going to ask me why did I have him so low?
Well, answer either question that you want to go with.
Karl Towns it's funny. Karl-Anthony Towns has been a New York Knick for one season, honestly, just one off season, but he's been in the New York Knick discussion for 4 or 5 years now. So it feels like he's been a Knick longer than he actually has. Karl-Anthony Towns is 8th on my list because he's only been a New York Knick for one season. But in that one season, Karl-Anthony Towns was an All-Star starter. He was All-NBA, and he won 2 playoff series as a New York Knick, and then has one of maybe the 5 biggest playoff shots. That step back he hit on Jalen Duren in Detroit to silence their crowd. And then he also had the over-the-shoulder mellow fadeaway in this. The guy is just dynamite, Karl-Anthony Towns. If he was a New York Knick, and 8 is the floor for him. I think I have David Lee ahead of him, Amari. I have a couple guys right ahead of him that probably shouldn't be ahead of him just on terms of talent alone. Karl-Anthony Towns, if you just go by the accolades, how many New York Knicks in the last 25 years were all NBA? And then how many of those New York Knicks were all-star starters? And then how many of those New York Knicks won playoff series? You're probably talking about 4 guys in total, right? And I believe the other 3 are higher than him on this list, and they were Knicks longer than Karl-Anthony Towns. So I think you had him ranked right in terms of his talent at number 4, but because of the length that he's been on the team, that's why I have him where I have him. And I expect him to be much higher on the 26 for 26 list if we do one of those next year, because the guy is just out of this world. And I think a lot of the discussion is focused on what he can't do. And it's like we're blinding ourselves to what he is and what he's already done for the New York Knicks. So Karl Towns, I could go on and on and on, but I'll stick a pin in it here. He should be higher than 8 than I had him. And I think where we have him at 6 is perfect.
He literally lands right in the middle of both of us. I had him at 4, you had him at 8. And shout out to another Knick that's going to be talked about on Friday. Shout out to who I'm actually going to pull up the rankings again because I forget who I had at 6. We haven't talked about who I had at 6 yet. Oh no, we had Josh Hart is who I had at 6. The way I kept going with my ranking, Mensa, was he made all NBA. He was an all-star starter. They made the conference finals. There's not many other decorated Knicks in that way. Our number 5, I'm sure people have figured out who it probably is, does have some hardware to his name. And on one side of the floor was a staple for the Knicks, but I would argue on the other side of the floor is where Karl-Anthony Towns was a staple. And yeah, I can't go to the point where, yes, I feel all the defensive frustrations that so many people in the fan base and apparently on his team felt last year. The guy's scoring ability was still so, here's this word, impactful, that it overrode the fact that you could pretty much get what you want if you get to the rim and get past that first line of defense, and he's the thing waiting for you. So I think if the Knicks win a title this year, he will be the second best player on a team that wins a title. So we're not just talking about where he ranks in Knicks history. This season for him becomes a Hall of Fame candidacy if he gets to the finals, let alone wins it. And so obviously I hope it goes a certain way that he gets to have that conversation, Mensa. The next question I have for you, what would happen for him to have to be higher, which I think we've talked about, is he wins a title. Even if they get to the finals, maybe that gets him higher than 6 on our list. I want you to also answer what has to happen for him to be lower on this list? How bad does the season have to go that Cat ends up like maybe potentially being at 10 or maybe even lower on this list?
So lower would be the Knicks have a disappointing season where they don't get as far as people think they go. What could lower him is maybe he has a full season at power forward and he's not quite as impactful at that position. Let's say he, injury, stuff like that. A lot of things that I don't necessarily expect to happen, but it would just have to be Karl-Anthony Towns does not produce to the level that he produced to last season. The Knicks don't have to win an NBA Finals, don't have to get to an NBA Finals for Karl-Anthony Towns to get higher on this list. He just has to be the same guy that he was last year for us. But for him to be lower, it would just have to be a lot of either injury would get him lower, or he doesn't reach his he doesn't perform the way that we have seen him perform over the past, it was 82 in the regular season and then 6 and 6 and
18. Yeah.
So the last 100 games that we saw him, he just be worse than that. And that's how you get lower.
I would add one other wrinkle, which, I mean, we're pipe dreaming here, but if he's in Milwaukee a year from now, and you're looking at a guy that was just like the centerpiece of a Giannis trade potentially.
Yeah,
then he becomes a footnote. Unfortunately, I'm hoping we don't have to explore that because it means the Knicks will have had a disappointing playoffs that forced them to reconsider some changes to the roster for sure.
Right.
The last question that I want to get to here: who do you think will be upset that we have Cat ahead of on this list? He's at number 6 on our list. So we could put the full list back up. He's ahead of Mitchell Robinson, ahead of Josh Hart, ahead of the Houston Sprewell combo. I know a lot of people have talked about OG Anunoby and how he needs to be higher on our list. I had him at 15. I thought that was fair, and he ended up at 15. Who do you think people... I mean, maybe this is more of a full list question, Mensa, because we haven't gotten your thoughts on the list. Who do you think people should be, or maybe you are most upset that we don't have higher or lower on the list?
I know somebody who's really upset that Emmanuel Quickley is where he is on the list.
Yes, and thankfully we have the ability to mute our DMs on that website. Yes.
Other than that, I think we did a really solid job with this list. Mikal Bridges being off it, I obviously don't agree with. I had him a little higher.
That may come up in a future honorable mention episode, by the way.
Maybe Kurt Thomas is too high. I don't know. But that's a little, before my time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the list is fine. I really don't have any gripes with it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good. Maybe Jamal Crawford's too low.
I keep wrestling with the fact that there's a stretch in this century, Mensa, and you know this because of where you put Nate Robinson, where if you had anything of a hint to enjoy, of something to enjoy with the Knicks, boy, did you enjoy the hell out of it. Whether it be just watching Jamal Crawford play basketball and become the king of the crossover. And what I said on the Jamal Crawford episode, my biggest regret being they could not identify that this is one of the greatest sixth men of all time. And they started him for 90% of his games in New York. But I enjoyed the hell out of Jamal Crawford while he was here. And I think there's some of that with Kurt Thomas. I think there's some of that with David Lee. And I think there's some of that with Nate. And look, I think there's some of that with Houston and Sprewell where I know I definitely did it with Houston, but we're carrying over what the late 90s were. And it's why the current group, like Cat, like Mitch, like Josh Hart, I'll throw Quickly and RJ and obviously OG onto this list. Imagine if we were doing top, the 20 for 20 Mensa at the end of 2020 and all of these other players didn't exist. I think it's a 20 for 20 of the top 20 most disappointing or worst.
That's a bad list.
And just how much more populated this Knicks list becomes due to the fact that this run of prosperity has existed. And I think it's fun to bring it on home by saying a lot of it has to do with what Karl-Anthony Towns has been and was for his first season with the Knicks. Look, I'll say without the title, so they just get to the conference finals again. I think he's in the top 4, maybe even top 3, like passing
easily.
I think he definitely passes our next 2. The number 3 is an interesting one, which I won't spoil yet, but he definitely makes it into the top 4. So 2 more spots where I already had him. But I think it becomes unanimous if they get to the conference finals again. If he makes another All-NBA team, if he's another All-Star starter for the Eastern Conference, I think you definitely go down that road. Any final thoughts on Karl-Anthony Towns?
I have 2. One is going to be short, so I'll start with that one. I can't think of players who are more proud than Karl-Anthony Towns is to wear the orange and blue. The moment in Toronto where he's pointing to the jersey, growing up in New Jersey, being a fan of the Knicks. I think his father was given a chance to try out for the New York Knicks. The shout out to all my Dominicans in New York. He has a lot of cultural roots here. And he just really seems happy to wear the jersey. And that's something that I never take for granted. And the last thing that I'll say is there is this idea that Karl-Anthony Towns cannot play center for the New York Knicks if the Knicks want to win. And I just want to say that is
you don't agree.
Untrue.
You don't agree. Yes, you don't agree.
Karl-Anthony Towns started at center for the Knicks for a regular season and 2 playoff series, and the Knicks got the furthest they have been in 25 years. So the idea that because Towns isn't an impactful rim protector or isn't a great defender, I mean, we kind of have to don't allow your biases to, again, we are so focused on what Karl-Anthony Towns is not. He can't block shots. We need Mitchell Robinson to block shots. Like, so what? Karl-Anthony Towns hits that 3 against Jalen Duren because Jalen Duren is not prepared to stop 7-foot basketball players who can hit step back 28 footers. There's maybe one other player in NBA history at that height who can do that, and his name is Victor Wembanyama. I don't think anybody else who has played the game can do what Karl-Anthony Towns can do offensively from the center position. So we had an issue last year where we didn't get optimal rotations and everything. If Karl-Anthony Towns is our starting center this year, the Knicks are going to be very successful because just like last year, they were very successful with Karl-Anthony Towns starting at the center position. So please just try not to get so caught up in what you think an impactful basketball player is when the numbers are telling you this is an impactful basketball player. And that's where I'll leave it. Go Karl-Anthony Towns. He's going to be a lot higher and should have been higher. I ranked him way too low. He should be at least 4th on this list.
Yeah, John. I have a New York question for you.
Yeah,
because
sure.
You're like, you're one of the most proud New Yorkers that I know. And you just mentioned that cat's from Jersey, but claims New York. Like, we're here, New York, basically. And like, again, I'm from Long Island. And the first time I ever lived in New York City, quote unquote, is when I moved to Queens 4 years ago. And I lived like a stone's throw from Nassau County. So I'm basically in the suburbs still. And I doubt you've seen it yet because barely anybody's seen it. But the new Spike Lee movie, Highest to Lowest. Have you heard that it's the new Denzel movie? Have you heard of it? Have you seen that it's available on Apple TV?
Heard of it, have not seen it yet.
So there is a stretch of this. It is very pro New York, which you would understand from you're definitely going to get that in every Spike Lee movie. It's very much a love letter to New York and specifically New York City. And he tries to stretch it across several boroughs with some of his movies. And this one in particular, Denzel takes the 4 train basically from Penn Station all the way up into the Heights. And I think he even takes it, so not into the Heights because I don't think the 4 goes up that high because it goes through Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
And there's like a set piece involving the stop at Yankee Stadium being important. And you can tell this is made by somebody that loves New York and loves its transportation system. I sometimes when I claim pride for New York, I recognize like I'm claiming it's somewhat borrowed because I'm somewhat like Karl-Anthony Towns in that I took trips to the city. I didn't live in the city. So last but not least, do you allow people like me and Karl-Anthony Towns and those of us in Long Island and outer Jersey and Connecticut to claim our city if the Knicks win a title in our city, Mensa?
Why not?
Okay, good.
I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, took the A train the majority of my life. I live in Coney Island now. Always been in Brooklyn. I love New York. It is what I am, to the point where if like I will root for teams that I don't normally root for. Like, so I'm a Jets guy. If the Giants are playing the Cleveland Browns or the Patriots, I'm rooting for New York because I know and I see like on the internet how much people love watching New York lose. And that irks me more than the Giants winning, right? Same thing for the Yankees. Like I love watching the Yankees beat the crap out of Middle America because they get so angry and it's like, haha, you have to wake up in Cleveland tomorrow. Like I love doing stuff like that to people. I'm an elitist when it comes to my city. Now, my experience is a little different from yours because I grew up in New York City, but a lot of us like in New York, like grow up in the city. Like now I'm looking at home ownership. I'm looking outside the city because I understand what it is. So just because like maybe like your parents were New Yorkers, I don't know if that's your case, but like,
it's mostly my dad's family. So I used to go to the Bronx every year for Thanksgivings, for 4th of July. And that's where I tell you, Mensa, it's so ironic. I live right on the other side of the Throgs Neck for where I used to go to for every holiday.
Right.
All of them have moved to like White Plains and all of these other spots because they've retired or they're at their point in their careers that they want to live, like you said, with more space.
Yeah.
But you cannot take the city out of them, So that's like my dad, his parents moved them from the Bronx to Suffolk County. So that I had only ever lived in New York, in Long Island, which is where they had also only ever lived.
Yeah. And that's, again, it's just our pride as New Yorkers is almost like you pass that down from generation to generation. It's like, we're from New York. We're better than these people. And it's not in that like sense of superiority isn't because of like a geographical thing. It's because we have access to so much that our perspective is unique in that case, where it's like, I went to school with everybody, right? Like not just that group or that. No, I went to school with all groups, right? So I know people and I was forced to view myself from the lens of another person while also clinging onto my identity. Like there's a lot that goes into that. And a lot of New Yorkers are faced with that reality, right? So we become more accepting people. Well, not all of us, but there's just so much that comes with like the culture of New York that you can't help but pass that down to your children. So like the greater New York area, a lot of people live in Jersey and commute to New York, live in Long Island and commute to New York to work. So like you work in the city, you have a favorite bar in the city, like you are a part of the New York experience. Now, New York natives we have a different experience because again, we're native to the city. But yeah, definitely. If you're from Long Island, like be proud. And that's the one thing
New York,
that I think that as a native, it bothers me sometimes. It's like people who are like, if you're from Syracuse or you're from Buffalo, be proud that you're from there. Like that's where you're from. Like I want you to be proud of that. Like don't say that you're from where I'm from, because those differences are what make us stronger. I don't know what your life is like. So let's talk about it. Let's see where we can find common ground. Let's see where we can find our differences and how we can grow, So like you're a Long Island kid, I'm a Brooklyn kid, but we're New Yorkers. That's it. But as long as you are proud of where you are from and you never turn your back on that, it's the authenticity that matters most. Be authentic to who you are. And from there, everything flows.
I just realized I doxed myself. Yeah, I totally don't live on the other side of the Throgs Neck. Look, that's a very big area, but I digress. I hope the pride I felt when the Knicks beat the Celtics and I went to the Bronx the next day for Mets Yankees, and you would expect that to be as tension fueled and antagonistic. I wore this hat that I'm wearing right now, but I wore a Juan Soto Mets jersey, and it was Juan Soto's first weekend back with the Mets in Yankee Stadium, and they were booing him the entire time. And every Yankee fan that saw my hat was like, hell yeah, go Knicks. And Jalen Brunson chants were raining through the stairwell as we were leaving the upper deck. Like, there's just nothing more unifying than a good Knicks team, which is why it is cool to see Karl-Anthony Towns. I think he takes the mantle for us outside New York natives, in my opinion. So there's that element of it that it's like, you claim this city, even though you're also not from this city, but hell yeah, do you represent this city? And I think he's going to do a great job representing the city this season. Mensa, it is always good to talk to you. I'm just going to say, tune in tomorrow. Mensa will be back. We'll be talking about an honorable mention in Mikal Bridges. So you get back-to-back days of Mensa. You're on the just like Mikal Bridges. You're on your way to playing 81 games based off these next 2 days. My thanks to John, who was here earlier, of course, and to all of you for watching. We've reached our top 5 for the top 25 Knicks of the past 25 seasons. If you dug the show, if you dug this episode, head to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and review. Head to the YouTube channel, like the video, remember to subscribe, turn on alerts, follow us on all socials. We appreciate interacting with you. Check out the Patreon. And until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Let's go Knicks. And I will speak with you soon. Peace.